Hey, Stephen Sashen from the Movement podcast, and I'm doing this quick recording from my hotel room in Japan, where I just spent the last 2 days sharing the benefits of natural movement with people out here. And speaking of sharing, what I'm doing on this episode to mark the end of season 2 is sharing the best episode from season 2. In fact, it's the best episode from season 1 as well. If you heard it before, I think you will like it again. You'll get some new things out of it, and if you haven't heard it, well, I think you're going to enjoy it. So more importantly, I just want to thank everyone who's been part of the Movement podcast for being part of the Movement podcast. It's been a real treat. This is something that I started really by accident, and it's been just a complete pleasure to hear from all of you who've gotten benefits from it. And I'm looking forward to sharing more with you in season 3. We have interviews coming up with some really interesting people doing some great research on what it takes to have a happy, healthy, strong body, starting from the feet first, because those things are your foundation. And a quick reminder, of course, is just go to www.jointhemovementmovement.com so you can find out the previous episodes and all the different places that you can engage with what we're doing on Facebook and on YouTube and places where you get your podcasts. And of course, all the places that you can leave reviews and comments, etc. If you have any questions or suggestions or people that you think should be on the show, drop me an email at move@jointhemovementmovement.com. So once again, enjoy this best of episode. Can't wait to see what happens with all of us for season 3. And until then and through then, live life feet first. Could the woman I'm going to be chatting with in this podcast be doing the stupidest research in the history of human biomechanical research? And what can we learn about natural movement from people who don't move naturally at all? Well, we're going to find out both of those things on today's episode of the Movement podcast, the podcast for people who want to know the truth about what it takes to have a happy, healthy, strong body, starting with the feet first, those things that are your foundation. We're going to break down the mythology, the propaganda, sometimes the outright lies that you've been hearing about what it takes to dance, to run, to walk, to hike, to move, to, well, anything you can think of. Well, feet first, but doing it enjoyably and healthily and efficiently. I'm Stephen Sashen, your host, and the CEO of ZeroShoes.com. You know the drill. If you want to be part of the tribe, please subscribe. That means go to jointhemovementmovement.com. If you don't know where to find us, where you can then like and share and click the bell if you're watching on YouTube and leave reviews. And if you have any questions, drop an email to move@jointhemovementmovement.com. Anyway, let's jump into the woman doing the stupidest research in the world. Sarah Ridge, it is such a treat to have you here. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Oh, no, of course, it's my pleasure. I've been trying to make this happen for a while, and we're going to have competition today for who has the biggest flyaway hair thing. I think it's going to be me today. I don't know what the hell happened.
If I were still on the East Coast, though, totally
different.
Oh
my God, I can't live on the East Coast anymore. That's where I grew up, but I mean, I had short hair on the East Coast. Now that it's doing this, I look like Bozo the Clown. It gets ridiculous. Why don't you do me a favor and tell human beings who the hell you are, and then we'll jump into the fun.
All right. I'm Sarah Ridge. I am a faculty member at Brigham Young University in the exercise science department. I teach biomechanics classes, and I do research. I do biomechanics research, mostly concentrating these days on the foot, and then also on injury prevention of like overuse injuries and things like that.
Cool. Well, we're going to jump into your stupid research in just a minute.
Yes.
But first, I like to share a movement thing that people can do. And we talked about this before we jumped on. And then I suddenly thought of one that I wanted to do. So I'm usurping your opportunity to share a movement thing with people. And I'm going to do this one. So if you're anywhere that you can do this, cross your arms. You can do this too. Cross your arms. Okay. Simple. No big deal. You do it without even thinking. Now here's what I want you to do next. Cross your arms the other way. Come on, you can do it.
Okay, wait, hold on. That one's under, and then why can I not think of it?
I know.
No.
You got it?
That was the same way. This one goes on. There, I got it.
Oh, wait, here, hold on. I think I have a secret for doing it. So my arm is right, my right arm is the one that's further out. So if I take it out and then put it underneath, and
there you go.
My left hand and put it under. Okay, there it goes.
See, it still wants to sneak out. Anyway,
right. So this is one of these interesting things. We get into these very simple movement patterns, and we don't even think about what it takes to do something really simple, like cross your arms the other way. I've actually gotten to the point where I can't remember which is my normal way. The other one you can do is put on your pants the wrong way. I don't mean, backwards facing forward, although that's pretty entertaining. But I just, I'm normally a left foot first person.
Oh.
So try doing right foot first.
I'm such a right foot first person.
How's that possible? That makes no sense. Why would anybody do that?
I know, right?
That is absurd.
All the time.
So try these things. Basically, look for anything that you think you do habitually. Try it the other way around. Try eating with the fork in the other hand. Try using, your knife in the other hand. There's other things that I can think of that you would do with one hand and not the other, that you could do the other way around that I'm not going to talk about. But when I had my, my shoulder surgery and I couldn't use my right arm, I got good at some of those, and you're making up the story of what you think those are. So suffice it to say, I will give this one. I can, if I'm in a public bathroom and the toilet paper is on either side, it doesn't matter anymore. I can handle that. So
it's so good to be adaptable.
It is. But it's fascinating to me how we do lay down these neural pathways for certain really habitual movements without ever thinking about it. One of my favorite things, I thought that everyone tied their shoes the same way. I've now watched thousands and thousands of people, and I have seen thousands of ways of tying your shoes. Yeah, who knew?
Yeah.
I'll have to record these someday and show all of them, and you will undeniably think that all of the ones that aren't like yours are ridiculous.
Super weird.
Yeah, why would you do that? That makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm really curious now because I can't imagine more than maybe 3 ways to tie your shoe.
Okay, well here's one that you probably never thought of. So you take each lace independently and make 2 loops, separate loops, and then tie those in a knot.
Isn't that the bunny thing? When you're teaching a kid and you make bunny ears, and then the one bunny goes, I think that's,
Oh yeah, that probably is.
So, I don't do it because I think that's more complicated, but I feel like that's the
I think you're right. I think that is the bunny ear method.
Yeah, but then, right. And then the normal way.
Well, and
my normal way.
That's right. And
then, the normal way.
Well, and here's another one. Look at how you tie your shoes, and in the same way with crossing your arms, look and see which lace you put over the other, and switch it and see if you can do it. Yeah, that'll mess you up.
Yeah.
Totally. I want to hear from people who try this and whose lives I've ruined by just pointing out that there is another way. And if you're a Republican, you definitely do it, right over left. If you're a Democrat, you do left over right. That's
really. Now I'm afraid to cross my arms again.
And let's not even start on which leg we cross. And Right. I want to jump in and talk about your stupid research.
Great.
Now, here's why I call it your stupid research, and this will not be surprising to you. One of the things that made you well known in the natural movement community was the research that I'm going to ask you to talk about foot strengthening and natural movement, or just minimalist shoes, truly minimalist shoes versus a foot strengthening exercise. And the reason that I call this the stupidest research ever done is because it's amazing that we have to try to do research to demonstrate something like, if you use your feet, they can get stronger. Right. And if you don't use them, not so much. In fact, do you know, I asked Irene Davis about this. Someone's got some research coming out where they took normal people, put them in with an orthotic in their shoe, and saw the exact opposite of strengthening, AKA weakening. Yes. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I cannot remember. I should be able to remember the author, but I don't. But I know the paper you're talking about.
And the gist is, not surprising, you don't let your foot move, it gets weaker.
Yeah.
What a shock.
Yeah.
But, we have to prove this for incredible reasons. Yeah. So talk about what your research was and what you discovered. And then I just want to hear, how the hell you got into all of this, and, why are you doing this? Who are you, Sarah?
So I often think, do I really even have a story to tell, about this research? Because it seems so obvious. Why wouldn't you think that your feet would get stronger if you allow yourself to use them? What we did was we took about 60 healthy runners, and
wait, I want to pause right there.
Yes.
I just love that you had a cohort, a sample size that was something decent. Most of the research that I've seen that's sort of anti-natural movement, we took 6 people who were habitual barefoot runners, and they weren't. They're people who've done some barefoot training, but they're not anybody that I've ever met in the barefoot world. So I love that you've got a real group of human beings.
Thank you. It took a long time.
Oh, really?
But it did. It took us probably, want to say it took us a couple years, I think, to get everybody. Now, so we had an 8-week training protocol.
Right.
And well, maybe I'll step back and outline the study, and then I'll tell you why, part of the reasons that it took us so long. But so we had 60 healthy runners. We split them into 3 groups. So we had a group that just did their normal running, wore their normal shoes, and really was not bothered by the study whatsoever, other than coming in and checking in with us and weekly. And then at the beginning and the end of the study, doing our testing, our measurements. Then we had another group that did specific progressive foot strengthening exercises. So they started it was a foot strengthening program that was developed by Irene Davis in their lab.
And we'll get into that later, and probably in the show notes put a link to what that is.
Perfect. And so over 8 weeks, they did more difficult exercises that were targeted specifically to the feet.
Is it hard to find tiny little barbells to use with your toes?
It is. It's really hard, but they're really cute when you get them. And then our third group was the minimalist footwear group. And what we did with that group was we just had them replace a certain number of steps that they would normally take in their regular shoes with steps in minimalist shoes.
Just walking.
Just walking. Yep. So nobody ever ran in minimalist footwear, and nobody changed anything about their running over that 8-week protocol, because we actually were not interested in the running part at all. We just used healthy runners because it's a relatively easy population to get around here, and because the study that had led to this was in runners. So we kind of kept with that population, thinking we may go to figuring out a transition protocol to running in minimalist footwear. But then we decided that, well, we'll get to that.
Wait,
sorry.
Something is happening.
Yes, it's very exciting. Scoot over here, because, this is Wayne Johnson.
Hey, Wayne.
Hello.
Another author on that paper that we were just
so there's a reason for your existence.
Yeah.
God, well,
yes.
Well, hey, welcome, Wayne. And do you want to do a quick intro of who the hell you are?
Okay, yeah, so I'm Wayne Johnson. I'm a professor here at Brigham Young University, and my background's in physical therapy and rehabilitation. I've been doing research with Dr. Ridge on the foot for the last number of years.
Do you make everyone call you Dr. Ridge?
Yes.
Mistress of biomechanics.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Respectful. Unlike some people.
I actually do the opposite. My dad was a medical professional, and so everyone I knew who were doctors, we never called them doctor anything. So when I deal with all of my doctors, I refer to them the way I would refer to anybody who's roughly my age, and call them by their name, which makes their employees very uncomfortable, which is another reason that I do it. It's very entertaining.
Of course.
Okay, so backing up then, and you can jump in, whoever wants to talk about it. So we've got 3 groups of runners, one group who just did whatever the hell they were doing. Did they get paid the same as the people who are actually in the interventions? Man, I want to be getting paid to do nothing different.
I know, right?
That's a great gig. All right, people who did nothing.
Get to walk in minimalist shoes.
Oh yeah, people who did the foot strengthening program, people who just walked and spent some time walking in minimalist shoes. And then what happened? What did you discover?
So what we were testing was we wanted to see. We looked at foot muscle size and foot muscle strength from baseline before they started the study until they were done the 8 weeks of the intervention or not as the control group. And we found that both the minimalist footwear group and the exercise group increased foot muscle size and foot muscle strength just about the same amount, in fact. So, and then the control group there was no change in the control group.
Right.
So either intervention resulted in increases in foot muscle size and strength.
And this is something that I love. So some people misinterpreted that and said, well, then clearly there's no benefit in wearing minimalist shoes. Like, no. It's the other way around, is that by wearing a minimalist shoe and just walking, you're getting as strong as you could get with a concentrated exercise program. Did you think in advance to do a 4th cohort that was the combo?
No.
What the hell?
Well,
Wayne, why didn't you help her with that?
We would have had to get 20 more people.
So talk to me about how difficult it is to get 60 people to put for a study.
It was not easy. We had a lot of dropout. I mean, I guess our dropout rates probably weren't that much higher than most other studies,
Right.
10, 15%.
For an intervention study for 2 months.
Yeah. But things, I mean, people would drop out, like they would get injured for other reasons,
Right.
and then obviously that means they have to drop out of the study. Or, I mean, we are at a university, we used a lot of college students and, they got really busy or something and like this was not a priority anymore.
Well, at BYU, there's not going to be a lot of college students who dropped out because they were just drunk or.
No, not very many of those. No. But yeah, there was, I'm trying to think of other reasons. I feel like we lost people to unrelated injury, which makes sense too. I mean, they're healthy, active people.
Right.
So, like.
Well, that's I mean, I'm sure you don't have the data on this, or I imagine you don't, but was it the control group and the non-minimalist group, was any group getting injured more often than another?
No.
We don't have that in this study. We didn't.
Yeah, I didn't think you were looking at that,
yeah.
but I'm just wondering if anecdotally.
Well, of the people who withdrew from the study,
yeah,
I don't think, I mean, we know what groups those people were in. I don't think there was anything really different about the groups.
Got it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, I mean, again, I find it utterly amazing that we have to prove this in some way.
Do research to like tell you that you're going to get stronger.
Yeah. And how did you, so to let people know, how did you measure both the muscle size and muscle strength?
So I'll let you.
Yeah, so muscle size we measured with ultrasound imaging. We have a protocol that we've developed. We also did some MRI, but that was for another reason. So we measured that with ultrasound imaging, with the cross-sectional area change in most of those muscles. And then strength testing.
So I just want to pause there. So basically what this is, and I'm doing the English to English translation. So the gist is, what you're seeing, the cross-sectional, imagine just a tube, and now the tube just got wider.
Yes.
Or, bigger diameter, bigger circumference. Yeah. So, okay.
Yeah. And then strength-wise, we have a device that we developed that measures toe flexion strength and the doming or short foot actions.
So I'm dying to know what this in my head, this is a torture device. What is it? What do you do? How does it work?
Go ahead.
So with the toe flexion, you put your foot, let's see, we just have the foot in it's kind of a wood device. I could show you a picture if you want to link that somehow or whatever. Sure. Yeah, but anyway, you put your foot in kind of this wood frame, and then we have a force transducer on one end, and then we use various devices to connect that to a carabiner, which then you grip with your big toe, and then tighten it enough. You're holding
the beaner with your toe.
Right. Yes. Okay. And then we do one that's great toe flexion only. Yep. And then we do another one where we do the same thing, but we have a different connection. So that one is like a bar.
Right.
And then that one goes between your second and third toes. And then you're pulling on that bar with your lateral toes. Generally 2, 3, 4. The pinky toe doesn't usually get over that on the bar.
Not so much. So who was the crazy person who thought these cool devices up?
Yeah, the bar goes horizontal across your fingers, so you're pulling just on the bar.
Right.
Fingers, yeah, like that. So yeah, we did that. It seemed to work.
Yeah.
So
we have some other we have a couple of papers. I don't remember if the other one's out yet. Anyway, about looking at reliability of those. Yeah. And then the doming one, it's another device where they put their foot in like a Brannick device, like the shoe sizer.
Right.
Okay, so they put their foot in there, and then we have
a strap that goes over the top of that.
Okay.
They lift up, and that strap then pulls on the load cell.
Got it. So basically, what they're just to again describe it. So you're contracting your arch, and short foot is something that we've shared with people a number of times on this podcast. Yeah. But if you haven't heard it, you're basically it's like an isometric thing in a way where you're trying to pull the ball of your big toe towards your heel, but you're not actually moving anything. But when you do that, it engages your arch and makes the top of your foot lift up. So, right. And it's a great exercise to do if you haven't done it. You can do it everywhere, sitting, standing, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm dying to know if anyone has tried to commercialize either of these devices.
So I'm not sure how much of a call there is for this.
Very small market.
Yes,
very small market. But very committed market. People who want their feet to get stronger and people who just like feet.
Yes, we've been working. We've been working with a company in New Jersey to have them make this device and like take it over, because we actually made one for Irene for their lab, but like I don't know, it's hard to standardize. That's not
right.
Not thing. We're not, we're not engineers. We're not like salespeople, whatever. And so I'd love for this company to take over creating them and standardizing them and selling them to whoever it is that wants them.
There was one of the early barefoot running pioneers whose name is escaping me right now. He was running barefoot in Boulder in the 70s, physical therapist, and he developed a device that basically just wraps around your entire foot and ankle and has like 4 places where you can hook bungee cords so that you can that you then attach to the door basically, and inversion and eversion and flexion and it's a really clever thing, but it really is like a weird medieval torture device when you and so there's that issue. Do you have any, given the results of that, well, let me just throw it out this way, after you published the study, what happened?
I mean, there's definitely been interest in the results. I think that, to me, the biggest thing is that we really started looking, when we started the study, our intention was to look at the transition to running in minimalist footwear.
Right.
But I think over the course of the time that we were doing the study, and then after the study, we've really been more now looking at, okay, clearly just walking in these shoes changes your foot. So what is that going to do for normal, healthy people, or not healthy people, but like, what can walking do in, or what it's strengthening the foot, period. Like, what will that do to hopefully prevent like foot pathologies and things from developing?
Yeah, I mean, this is the magic question, is if it, and this is the thing that people, it's funny. So first they want you to prove anything. Now, of course, the thing that I guess the elephant in the room, if you will, is that had your study been done, a couple of years earlier, there would have been no lawsuit against Vibram.
Well, at that time that there was a lawsuit against Vibram, we were doing our first study where we actually had people transition into the Vibrams just the way that, like, we didn't actually really prescribe too much for transition.
Right.
It was kind of
what the Vibram webpage said.
Yeah, it was their 10% for a couple of weeks and then as comfortable kind of thing.
Right.
And that study we found bone stress injuries in the foot of people, or in the feet of people who were transitioning. It was about half of the group that transitioned to minimalist to the Vibrams.
It's an interesting thing.
Too.
Yeah.
What'd you say,
Wayne? The majority of women that got the injury.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't remember that protocol very clearly, other than when I first looked at it, I remember thinking, well, that's not good.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's funny because like we published the muscle size. So we looked at the bone stress stuff using MRI, and then a few years later, we published the muscle size changes from that study, because we did see that the minimalist footwear group increased muscle size.
10 to 15%.
And so, and when that one went for review, one of the reviewers was like, how can you do this to people? You shouldn't put people through this protocol. And we're like, okay, it is the exact same study, like it's just a different data set from this previous study.
Oh, that's hysterical.
But yeah, we're like, nobody would do that. Like even within that span of those like 2 years. And as we were doing the first study, that's when the Vibram lawsuit was happening. And yeah, so, a couple years later, nobody would have done it. Yes.
No. It really is outrageous. But I mean, so like the first thing is, okay, is there any value? And the second thing people want to know is, so is there going to be any value in terms of injury prevention or recovery? And people don't realize, I mean, look, you had such a hard time just getting 60 people for this study. People don't realize how hard it would be to put together a good study that's long enough to really determine, what the story is about injury prevention. But of course, the thing that people are overlooking is, again, it's not our job. We're not the intervention. For the first 9,950 years that human beings were making footwear, it looked like, something minimalist, something to protect your foot, something to hold that on your foot. So I always say, like when I was at the American College of Sports Medicine, I kept asking the guys from Brooks and Adidas, like, well, where's your proof for anything you just said? And that's when the topic changes. So it's amazing that, again, we're having to prove things about what bodies do naturally when the companies that do unnatural things are not held to the same standards.
Yeah.
Or when they are, the research does not land in their favor, and somehow people just don't hear about it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw it, but at that ACSM thing, the guys from Brooks and Adidas both made some comment about how, well, we don't have research that backs up some of the things we're saying. And I've got a slide. It's like, well, here's 40 studies about, natural movement that show the value of that, or studies that show that extra padding does not actually reduce impact forces, or all the various things that are, against what modern shoe companies say. It's like, I don't know why you're not quoting this stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I think that, there's so many different situations that people are testing in. And one of the things with the footwear companies is, everything's proprietary. And
Right.
so, like, even if whatever research they are doing, they do share very little of their own research. But yeah, it's interesting, like, when you look at how running footwear developed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like in the 60s and 70s, like how it, kind of developed, which is a little bit of happenstance in many ways.
Wait, do you know the story of how we ended up with elevated padded heels?
The cushioned heels.
Yeah, do you know how that happened?
Yeah, I feel like it was something kind of random, wasn't it? I can't remember now.
No, it's actually better / worse. So some Nike was in a building that they shared with some, I think, orthopedic podiatrists or sports podiatrists, and Bowerman was getting runners with Achilles tendonitis, and he said, what do we do? And they said, oh, well, clearly their Achilles have shortened from wearing higher heel dress shoes just in their daily life.
Oh.
So we need to pad, elevate the heel and put some padding under there to protect their heel and their Achilles. And of course, your heel is, well, once you do that, you can't avoid landing on your heel.
Mm-hmm.
Your calcaneus, your heel is a ball, so now you're unstable, so now you need motion control. By the time your foot hits the ground, it's fully extended, so your plantar fascia are in a weak position when you need them to be strong. So basically, that one intervention was sort of the cause of everything. Now, the footwear industry, I can tell you, is just a bunch of copycats. Mm-hmm. If something starts to sell, everybody tries to rush to make money off that same idea because they don't want all the money to go to that guy. Mm-hmm. And really, if you look in the last 50 years, the only things that people have been changing is the type and amount of cushioning. I mean, it's still the same basic idea: elevate your heel, cushioning, motion control, etc. So there's a guy that I know who was at Nike for a long time, who was at a track meet with one of these podiatrists and said, your idea has become the de facto standard for footwear. What do you think? And his response was, biggest mistake we ever made.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
I mean, this is, it's a smoking gun. It really, and people don't know this. And now everyone's just trying, like at this, again, this ACSM thing, the guy from, one of the questions was, what's in the future? And both the guys from Adidas and Brooks had the same basic idea, which is, everybody's a unique special snowflake. So we're making something just for them. So Adidas they want to do their 3D molded midsole, or their 3D printed midsole, some form of cushioning. And then Brooks was, some special outsole, where they practically admitted that their goal is to give you a different shoe for everything you're doing. So you need a special shoe for walking into the bathroom, a different shoe for walking out of the bathroom, and probably a different shoe for taking a dump. So, that was really there. And I think one of them even said, it's kind of a marketing thing. It's like, what a shock. So, but I mean, it's kind of like Benno Nig. They both quoted him and at the very beginning saying, well, everyone has a preferred movement pattern and it's really impossible to change that. And I spoke to Benno's son, Sandro, and I was about to kind of rip him one about this ridiculous idea. And he said, well, what my dad meant was, if you're in the same basic shoe, you're going to move the same basic way. Being something that's a 12 millimeter heel drop versus 8 millimeters is not a big difference. But my dad would be the first one to admit that if you just switch to barefoot, something's going to change.
Right.
So these guys, it's just, rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic, and wondering why, nothing has really changed.
Yeah.
So it's, and the biggest one that amazes me, and I don't know how this one happened, is pointy toes. Like, what the hell?
Yes.
Who thought that idea up?
Right. Like, I mean, it clearly became fashionable somewhere at some time.
Right.
I don't know why.
Yeah, that one's a mystery. Did you get any feedback from big shoe people or anyone who's sort of anti-natural movement?
Not really.
Not
I mean,
that I know
yeah,
of.
I feel like it's been pretty. I don't know. Maybe people approach it as the stupidest research ever. I don't know.
No,
'Cause I feel like it's been pretty like, okay, yeah.
no, I think it's actually the opposite. I think that sadly, that that when there's any research that somehow comes out seemingly in favor of, let's call them modern athletic shoes, it's put up by companies who have a lot of money who can push it through. Like there was something in the paper today or on CNN.com that I think it's Papa John's has a new dough recipe.
Mhm.
Really? This is news? Who gives a crap?
Right.
But in the same vein, any big national or multinational company, when they have some new product, suddenly that's news for some reason because there's enough people using the product that, it's a thing. So,
Yeah.
but on the minimalist side, there are no companies that are big enough that that we have enough sway with the media to make something newsworthy. So when
Right.
something comes out like your research or Irene's research on quote partial minimalist shoes, the stuff that the big companies call minimalist that really aren't,
Right.
or Christine Pollard showing that more cushioning is actually worse for you. These things don't get any attention because there's no money behind it to get the word out. And of course, many places that you'd want to get that published are getting advertising dollars from big shoe companies.
Interesting.
So,
yeah, I mean, I will say, like, so the Vibram study, when we did that one, the running transition,
that got attention.
That got a
Got
ton
a
of
lot of
attention.
attention.
And then,
Yeah.
and this one really didn't. I mean,
It's
yeah,
still
no,
relatively
I mean,
new.
It is, but like
Right.
that other one, like it hit and like,
It hit, and again, like the thing that and correct me if I'm wrong, but my did it matter which Vibram shoe they were wearing?
we had them mostly in the same style.
Do you know which?
No, it was like the original or the right. It was like the lowest end one.
Okay.
Whatever. And then some people had, so those had like a big opening
Right.
on the foot, right? Some people did have one that covered
Strap.
the top of the foot, but
Got
I
it.
can't
The Velcro strap.
with the Velcro strap, but I don't remember.
The thing that I've noticed some interesting things in that product more than any other that I've seen, and this is the thing that I got in an argument where someone said, well, your argument is going to be that it was about their form, not their footwear. And I said, yeah. Like, what? I said, no, that's definitely my argument, because I saw so many people who would get in that shoe and do one of two things: either continue running the same way they were in regular shoes,
Right.
Or worse, where they would still overstride, their foot's about to land way in front of their body, and then they would just point their toes, plantar flex, thinking that you're supposed to land on the ball of your foot, and so they're landing with all this massive force on those metatarsals, which is not the way you're supposed to run. So it's like, unless you're controlling for form, then I mean, what you're pointing out really is that this transition program sucks,
Right.
not necessarily that the shoes suck.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And that was really our take home from that was like, we can't even tell you like if it's good or bad to run in minimalist footwear because the transition is so important and that was not defined at the time.
Right.
One of the other things that came
But
out
we
of
did see an increase in muscle size. So they were
you did?
their muscles more.
Oh,
we
interesting.
did.
Interesting.
Yeah. One of the other things with that study.
Oh, wait, hold on. Wait, I got to ask.
Yeah.
Do you know if the incidence of stress fractures or stress related events was higher than it would be in a control group in a normal population?
We had a control.
We had a
group
control
that
group.
matched,
Did you? Okay.
They had one injury and the other group had 9 or 10 injuries.
Got it. Okay.
So
The other thing is these injuries are stress injuries that the runner didn't necessarily feel. There were 2 stress fractures, but some of them were injuries where the runners didn't feel them, but because we were doing MRIs,
Oh, interesting.
radiologists saw them, and the radiologists, we had 3 radiologists read them, and they all said that if they had seen that on an image of a patient, they would have told the patient they needed to alter their training or whatever, alter activity somehow. So that's what we qualified as an injury.
Oh,
There
interesting.
was a scale from 0 to 5,
Mhm.
and anything was it 2, 3? I think 2
I think it was 0 to
3.
4.
Oh, 0 to 4. That's right.
That's the
5
5
numbers,
levels.
5 levels, right? And 2, 3, and 4 were considered injury, even if the subject would
Could
not have said they
experience at that. That's fascinating. I wonder if those subjects who weren't having a personal experience of any problem, if
Right.
they would have adapted over another, let's say another 8 weeks, and
Right.
actually that stress incident would have vanished basically.
Yeah,
they
exactly.
may
And
have.
that was one of the things that we really don't know, especially in that like 2 level,
Yeah.
was that the good response,
Right.
that then was going to lead to the strengthening.
Right.
At the 3 level, they said they would have told the person to stop what they were doing. Not like, I think at the 2 level, they said they would modify activity. At the 3 level, they would have told the person to stop activity. And the 4 was a stress fracture.
The
So,
stress thing
obviously,
is, stress is such an interesting thing, especially muscle stress or bone stress, because like you were just alluding to, there is a God, I can't think of the word I'm looking for.
response.
Well, there's a hormetic response. So basically, yeah, there's a response. You get a certain amount of stress and your body responds to that. I had a DEXA scan a while ago, and my bone density from like the pelvis down is just through the roof because I'm a sprinter. So I'm just applying, tons and tons of force. But I'm sure at a certain point when I was just getting started, it would have looked like I was going to end up, osteoporotic or in really bad shape. But now it's the exact opposite. And it's an interesting phenomenon. I want to jump ahead to the other thing that I alluded to, which is, what can we learn from people who are not doing anything resembling natural movement? And this is something that you've been wanting to study for a while and are now, and that is figure skaters, which could not be further apart or further away from minimalist footwear wearers. Unless you took like one of our shoes and stuck razor blades on it, and that would be kind of close.
Unique.
Has anyone ever tried to make an ice skating shoe or something that would allow you to skate that was in any way flexible?
Yes, in fact.
Really?
That colleague is not here today. Yeah. I would call him down the hall.
Oh man, how? That's really cool.
So our colleague Dustin Bruning, who also actually might not have been on that paper. Anyway, Dustin's master's thesis was developing an articulated figure skating boot. So like ski boots have the hinge at the ankle, theoretically at the ankle. He and our old advisor, Jim Richards, went through and figured out like sort of the axis of rotation of the ankle, and then told this boot company where they should place the articulation. There were a number of issues because it's not an easy axis to model, and so boot company built a bunch of these articulated skates. They had skaters train in them and skate in them for a little bit, and they did see a lot of the skaters decreased their landing forces when in the articulated boot, which makes sense. You now have an actual flexion range of motion, but it still had support on the sides so that you wouldn't have medial lateral motion. But there were some interesting things with that. So they used experienced skaters mostly, and a lot of them had a really, really hard time transitioning. Yeah. And like I skated in them, so I was a figure skater way back in the day, and I skated in them a couple times, and it was weird because you're used to being able to like support yourself by pushing against the boot. Exactly. Yeah. And now I couldn't. It was weird. So they did. So there was definitely some issues with that. The other thing was one of the national champions wore them. She had been getting injured a lot, and then she wore these articulated boots. And she did really well, but I think there's also some, as I said, design issues and difficulty with, placing the ankle joint axis right where it really should be.
Right.
And so the boots would break because you're placing so much torque that it would pop out and things. And so eventually, I think they sold them for about a year or two, and then they stopped selling them.
I'm assuming that, I'm working on the assumption. I remember with speed skaters, they were using this clap skate, sort of those clap blades. But, they're not wearing anything that provides a bunch of ankle support. They're wearing something that looks more like a sprinting spike with a razor blade on the bottom, which is why what people don't really get. I have a couple of friends who are speed skaters, and every one of them has a story of, I fell down, hit the pads, and the skate hit my inner thigh and cut an ephemeral artery, and I nearly bled out. It's like, oh my God.
I know, right?
Yeah, that is like a whole different thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're wearing skates that are not providing quote ankle support.
Right.
Is there anyone who's actually tried figure skating in a skate like that with a shorter blade, obviously?
Not that I am aware of. I think, so skating is such an old school aesthetic sport, and
Yeah.
things have to look a certain way. And that was actually one of the other reasons with the articulated boots. They were thicker
Right.
than regular skates. And so some people, especially with these like tiny, skinny little girls, then like, their leg would be this big, and then the boot is like twice as big, and it looks
Right.
weird. So the changing the aesthetic is something that's always a challenge. But the other thing is you have so much rotational motion
Right.
in figure skating that you don't have in the same way in speed skating,
Oh, of course.
with the rotations and the landings, that I think people are a little more leery probably of, like, let's just do this without.
Well, but I think,
But if they would strengthen.
well, that's it.
Yeah.
Well, that's where I was going, because I mean, speaking as a former gymnast, there's a lot of times
Mhm.
where you're landing and rotating with some serious torque, and
Mhm.
there's no gymnasts who have any real ankle support.
Yeah, no, we definitely thought that you've got to start this with the little kids.
Yeah.
Like, and then, because as the little kids get, as they train and they get stronger and whatever, they won't even know the difference, and their
Right.
ankles will be fine, and they will have, foot muscles and lower leg muscles that can handle it. But the problem is, again, in the skating community, getting buy-in, because, the parents of some competitive, first of all, you have to have somebody who's competitive and gets
Right.
results to be the example, right? And then the
Exactly.
parents of all the little kids want, whatever the champions have, and so
Right.
it's a really hard, you really need like a really influential coach to buy in and get all their kids going.
Well, I think you just nailed, like, I love when people say things like, well, how come fill in the blank professional athlete is not wearing some minimalist shoe? It's like, because
Mhm.
we're not paying him a shit ton of money to do that.
Yeah.
But I think to your point though, at a certain point, there's going to be an opportunity for some serious athlete in any sport we can think of: golf, tennis, basketball, baseball, football, soccer, if I didn't already say that one. I don't think bowling so much, but that's okay. Miniature golf, probably not so much.
I don't know. What was that thing this summer, that miniature golf show?
What?
Did you see the miniature golf show on ABC this summer?
Oh my God, no, I would have loved that.
It's on Hulu or something. It's like extreme mini golf. It's like, it's crazy. Anyway.
All right, I'm totally going to look that up. Wait, hold on. I have a professional putters association ball that I won when I was 14 from winning a miniature golf championship. And I still have that ball,
I'm telling you, you could have been on this show. It was awesome.
If it weren't for miniature golf, I don't think I'd be with my wife. I mean, a lot of our courting was happened over miniature golf.
Nice. That's awesome.
Miniature golf and hot tubs; those were our two things, and still are.
Awesome.
Wait, there was something. Oh, but yeah, if some major sports personality has some, and they all have a reason, frankly, to make a change. But I say to professional athletes, I go, don't go switching right away, because
Sorry, my son is here. Hi.
Come on in.
We're doing a video podcast.
You're on kind of television right now.
Pete, pick up your shoes.
Oh yeah, let's see what you're wearing. Yeah,
Wait,
all right.
no, take your shoe off and show it to me.
Okay, let's see.
Your shoe off? What? Yeah, because I'm going to show them what you're wearing.
Oh, this is gonna.
Whoops. See?
Hey, check it out. All right.
There you go.
I must say, I'm upset.
I'm not there to touch the floor with my socks.
He is not big enough for your shoes yet.
Oh, okay. All right.
I know.
There's-
And what
there's
size they start at? Like a 3?
11.
11.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
he wears a 1.
Oh,
Great.
you didn't know? Did you not know we had a kid shoe?
No.
Oh, that's why. Yeah, we've got it. It came out in the fall. So I know a guy who knows a guy. We'll see if we can hook you guys
Yeah,
up.
all right. Oh, good. Now he's sorry.
No. I just love, this is my favorite thing is we don't have children because it would be dangerous if we did, because I'd be the kind of person saying things like, hey, stop jumping on that couch. The springs are better on this couch.
Yes.
But anyway, point being, at some point we'll have some real athlete who obviously has a reason to make the change. And once they do, it's going to be all over. We have a bunch of professional golfers who've been contacting us saying that they train in our shoes, but they're not playing in them because they're getting so much money from their shoe sponsors right now. So someday we hope that changes. We have, let's see if I'm allowed to say this. We have a professional athlete in a sport that is well known for ankle injuries who emailed us with about a shoe that we were testing with them. And the word was, I couldn't sprain my ankle in these if you paid me to.
Oh,
and
nice.
The issue is that people in this sport, if we're gonna try and break in, we need to custom make shoes for everybody who's wearing them. And again, we don't have that kind of cash yet. But at a certain point, I think we can change the world that way.
Yeah.
So
cool.
So what did you discover in dealing with your? This is great.
I'm sorry.
I love it.
Then, what are you doing?
I'm here to give that to you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, are you going home now?
For people who are just listening, there's a child who has taken over the entire podcast,
I'm sorry.
randomly walking around in front of the camera, playing with some sort of toy that I wish I had.
I don't know why.
Okay,
And,
why don't you go out and find it?
and now we're trying to coax him away from the camera. The odds of that happening are really slim. I feel like I'm David Attenborough.
All right. Okay, stop.
Great.
Okay.
So,
All right. Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
so see ya.
Woo!
Awesome.
Never know what you're gonna find around here.
Do you have any dogs that can?
Yeah. Right.
We have 3 office dogs who are here today. I'll see if I can get one
Oh,
of them.
nice.
But they're all pretty low key. One of them I don't think knows that I live here at all. Been here for a year and still doesn't know who I am.
Awesome.
It's just really chill. So in dealing with skaters, talk about what you've researched, what you discovered, and how that's relevant for people in the whole natural movement world.
Well, so some of the stuff that we've done with skaters, I guess, well, there's not a whole lot of money in skating research. Talk about like another area that is, hard to break into, right? Like, so the skating research.
Well, wait, I want to pause for a second. You would think that you could, that they're, well, again, hard to break in for the same reason professional sports, but you would think that hockey players would have some motivation to really look into, how to stay alive and stay in the rink.
Yeah. So concussion research is relatively popular. There's a lot of people doing concussion research, and there are some people doing hockey biomechanics research.
Okay.
Canada, though, and it's like, I want to say there's 2 universities that have setups that really do the hockey stuff. With figure skating, there's very, very little that's been done. And so, for a while,
there's tons of money for pairs, dance, skate, whatever the hell that's called. I'm totally making that up. It's like, it's all that money for synchronized swimming research.
Right. Exactly.
Flowing in. Yeah,
exactly. So yes, it's kind of like that.
Dancing. That's the phrase I couldn't think of.
Yes.
Yeah,
there you go. So for a while there was, they were trying to figure out how to change the boots, because that really, I think everybody involved with skating and the care of the skaters as athletes pretty much agrees that the boots are a problem. But there's, 4 or 5 boot companies in the world. They have a pretty small market, as it is. So they're not rushing to try to change things. And then you have that one company that did change things with the articulated boot, but ran into problems. And, at some point we got to cut our losses and go back to the standard. So changing the boots is really challenging. That is not something that we've, that anybody has really figured out an answer to yet. Other things that, in conversation with some of the medical personnel that deal with like U.S. figure skating team athletes, they do talk about weakness of foot muscles, weakness of hip muscles.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So like when they'll often do single leg landing tests like in the office or something, and you can just see the knee like collapsing in. It's ridiculous. Like, this is what you do. Like, this is the move. Like, that's how you land everything, and they can't control it. And so that's definitely something like, and even I would say, 30 years ago or so, there was no cross training in figure skating. It was, you just go skate and you just do your things over and over again. And now at least there's off ice training, and dance and stuff like that. Right. So I think,
Well, runners, of course, are very much the same way. Distance runners in particular, they want to run and don't do
right,
anything else,
yeah,
despite the fact that doing that causes the problems that doing something else would cure.
right, yeah,
exactly.
Well, yeah, I mean, don't
Including
even,
strength in their feet.
yeah, exactly. I mean, don't even get started on sports specialization, right? Like in
Right.
kids, and anyway. So yeah, so what we've been doing recently with skating, there's two projects that we're working on now. One is instrumenting a figure skating blade so that we can actually get measurements of their landing forces on the ice, because we actually don't even have that. Like,
Oh,
nobody
interesting.
actually knows. Any studies that have measured landing forces in figure skaters have done it off ice in a lab, having a skater jump like backwards from a box onto a force plate on artificial ice or something like that, which
Right.
clearly is going to be very different. So we've been working on instrumenting a blade so that we can get on ice landing forces. It has been a long project and it's been really challenging. But that's one thing, because that's really a starting point, right? Like, we don't even
Right.
know what we're dealing with until we know the impact forces and what influences them, specifically with skating. And then the other thing we've been working on is an activity monitor, like a sort of like a Fitbit for skating, but something that will count the number of jumps the skaters do. They will give them their rotation speed and time in the air or jump height or something along those lines. So we've been working on developing that too, which doesn't have too much to do with
I just like the idea. If anyone thinks that academia is somehow not connected to the real world, boy, you just proved it.
Yeah. I know, but it's so fun.
No, I'm jealous.
Projects. And
Yeah, no, I think that's awesome. I mean, and it is fascinating. I think the application to hot dog vendors might be really high in some way that we haven't identified, or
right. Absolutely.
And so given that skaters are, for all practical purposes, putting their feet in casts for hours a day, what are you seeing, or what have you done anything about that, or what do you see with that?
I mean, so I think that, I would love to test skaters' foot strength, as we have now. We just like want to throw everybody into the foot strength device and see what happens.
Yeah.
And get these measurements. But I think it would be interesting to get skaters, given how much time they spent doing activity in basically a cast. And then really, I think it is going to be, they could do strengthening, obviously,
Right.
but also changing the boots. They probably do quite a bit of dance. So
Yeah.
you think that should hopefully strengthen. But I don't know, we just don't have the data. Like, it's hard to say. And when they are,
I'm just going back to the whole speed skating, clap skate thing, where I'm just thinking if there's any, if there were any opportunity to articulate the ankle or the foot in some way, I can't imagine that wouldn't be beneficial if there was a way of figuring out the engineering of it.
Yeah, no, I agree. It makes sense. Like, yeah, it's logical. It just, again, breaking into this market and, having somebody who has enough money to do something about it and, and to, do it well. And
yeah. Well, it also occurs to me that if someone actually did make that, the odds are pretty high that it would be banned immediately, because they'd have a patent on it. They'd have, the rights, and everybody else would freak out. Sort of like I don't know if there was a thing, Puma made a sprinting spike. They call it a brush spike. So instead of big metal things, it had like a bunch of little things, like literally imagine a whisk brush, just, glued to your shoe. And there were some runners who did really well wearing it. And so, of course, probably inaccurately, people concluded that they did well because of the shoe, but then the shoe was suddenly magically banned. And the argument was, well, it's bad for the track. It's like, really?
Interesting. Yeah.
It's like, go take a look at a Mondo track after 1 year of people running on it. There's nothing that's good for that track. The idea that, these little things are somehow worse for it is ridiculous. But it's funny. It really is interesting to me how in the running world, if someone does well, the first thing people assume is, well, it's got to be the shoes.
That's interesting.
I did a podcast, or more accurately, a rant like a week or two ago about the sub 2 hour marathon. And my basic position was, look, Kipchoge running sub 2 hours, it's amazing. But this guy was already the most amazing athlete that you could find for the marathon. He ran a 2:01:38. That was his world record. And then he runs 2 minutes faster under ideal circumstances. That's less than 5 seconds per mile different. And you think it's because of the shoes?
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what, I haven't asked you this, and it occurred to me to do it. I'm really, how do I want to put this? I don't like using the word passionate, but I know people will. I'm very, very attached to the whole phenomenon of promoting natural movement. I mean, it made a big difference for me. It made a big difference for my wife, and now for hundreds of thousands of people that have gotten into Zero shoes and other truly minimalist footwear. And it also really motivates me because there are big companies making a lot of money doing things that are demonstrably not good for people, and that just infuriates me. And something Irene Davis said to me early on, which is, if we just get kids wearing shoes like yours, in 20 years we won't be treating adults for the problems that they currently have. And that's also highly motivating, even for someone who doesn't have children. And it's not just because we like the idea of changing the world. We like the idea of changing the world. I don't care if anyone knows that I had anything to do with it, or my wife feels the same way, but it's an important thing. This is my position. I have no idea what your fundamental philosophical take is about the whole natural movement thing, given what you've done and what you might have in the works.
Yeah. Well, my kids wear minimalist shoes, as you can see.
Says something.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I do feel like it makes so much sense. Like, I think, when we got into this, at least for me, when we started that first the running transition study, I was interested because I'm interested in preventing overuse injuries, particularly in athletics and in these landings and things like that. And so that's how I got interested. And as we've kind of gone down this route of what is going on at the foot, like what does the foot, what does the foot do?
Why do we have
what's the role in in the force absorption and the protection of of the impacts through the rest of the body? That's kind of what has gotten me really interested and kept me kind of going on this route. And then the idea of being able to prevent foot problems in I don't know, just as you age, right? We just tested a whole bunch of people down at the senior games in the Huntsman World Senior Games in St. George.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
Yeah.
But it's, it's fascinating to see, like, 120 people's feet. And, I've been doing a variety of things over the years, but like, just getting a sense for how, what happens as you age too.
Yeah.
And, have you talked to Belle Seiko yet?
I've talked to Belle at a couple of events, but we haven't done this yet. And her research on, was that research with just women, or was it mixed? I can't remember.
It was women with knee osteoarthritis.
Right. And for people who don't know, I've talked about it before. The short version is wearing minimalist shoes, not even ideal minimalist shoes, frankly, but wearing minimalist shoes, their knee osteoarthritis went away is the easiest way to put it. A little glib, but nonetheless, I mean, it's something that most people would tell you couldn't happen.
Right.
And that was really fun.
Yeah, they took less pain medication. They had lower joint loading at the knee. Yeah. And so there were, I mean, like, and that does seem totally counterintuitive to put somebody who has osteoarthritis in minimalist shoes. And
again, it seems counterintuitive only because it seems obvious, for reasons that it shouldn't, that cushioning must be good. And if you get rid of it, that must be bad. And I love to point out a couple things. I go, well, first of all, foam, any kind of cushioning, doesn't matter what it is, any kind of cushioning is basically tuned to a particular force, particular weight, particular speed. And you are probably not hitting it with that force, or certainly not all the time, but almost always never. Secondly, it breaks down almost immediately. And I saw some research, Brian Heiderscheit showed this, I hadn't seen it before. He had done some research on foam where they were just basically banging it over and over and over to see how fast it wears out. And shoe companies love to say, well, replace your shoes every 300 to 500 miles. And he saw that how badly the foam had degraded was basically not at all different between 200 miles and 300 miles, and really not much different between 100 miles and 200 miles. It really turned into crap at about 60 miles.
Oh man.
And so, that's another thing. I did a video. Oh my God. I took a video. I was in the airport. There's a guy walking in front of me in a pair of regular motion controlled padded shoes, and he's falling off the insides. I mean, just completely falling off the insides. The foam had totally degraded. And we posted this. This is going to say a lot about the world. We posted it on Facebook, and people were making, I would call it the appropriate comments about how these shoes are not great for you. We posted it on Instagram, and people accused us of body shaming. It's like, no.
That was not the point. No.
Shoe shaming.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we were doing. So that was just incredible. But and the thing I say is, given all of these things about foam, which would you rather have? Some man-made thing that breaks down and is not tuned for you, or a almost instantaneously adjustable, almost not infinitely, but massively adjustable spring mechanism that's built into your body that just doesn't really wear out?
Mm-hmm.
And everyone goes, well, yeah, that makes sense. But we've been so taught that there's a mechanical or product solution to almost every problem. And again, cushioning feels good the moment you put it on. That just doesn't mean it's good for you, as all the research that Christine Pollard's doing, showing the more cushioning, the more impact forces you have. So, or at least they don't get reduced. I mean, it's not really counterintuitive, but in a way it is. And so it's kind of a goofy thing. And I think that people just need to have the experience. I mean, look, the number of people that I know who switched to something like a Hoka or some other maximally cushioned shoe, who for the first 6 months, first year even, were going, oh my God, these are amazing. They're allowing me to run. And at the 2-year mark, I'm going, oh my God, I can't run. My knees are shot.
Yeah.
It's super high. But again, that research is not going to get much attention because there's not hundreds of millions of dollars worth of product behind it.
Interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, what's on the horizon? What would you, I'm going to ask a fun question. If you had unlimited resources, what would you want to study?
I mean, I'd love to do follow-up, like a long-term type study,
Right.
Starting with kids, or different age groups, and kind of following them along for a while and seeing how their feet, kids with how their feet develop, and then older people, like, changing their footwear and seeing what happens. You want to talk about blood flow stuff?
Yeah, we're looking at blood flow and the effect of narrow toe box shoes on blood going into the foot, and we measured a 60% drop just by taking the big toe and moving it over towards the other toes. And that drop,
my God.
For some people were able to come back up, but on average they stayed down 30%. And
wow.
And now we want to keep working with that and to see what happens when you're actually in a shoe and you do this.
Yeah.
Like, is this leading to the development of plantar fasciopathy and some of these other problems?
Well, where I'm going sort of in the opposite direction, because I'm not making any medical claims when I say this, but given what you just said, it'll be intuitively obvious. The number of people who've told us that they had things like Raynaud's or diabetic neuropathy or other foot-related issues, who once they're in something that lets their toes spread and bend and flex and move, they find some relief. And I go, well, it's not surprising. And arthritis too. You're moving and improving circulation. I mean, that's going to be a big deal. Yeah. And again, not really well researched at all at this point. And something that most medical professionals will tell you the exact opposite. You need to get in a big, thick. Jesus, there was a video that I saw. The Michael J. Fox Foundation sponsored some research from a product called, I think, Vibe Forward. Don't hold me to it, but I think I'm right. And it's a vibrating thing. You put it on your ankle, and they showed that when they use this thing, people with Parkinson's symptoms would walk better. You could see their mobility was way improved. And I immediately looked in our email database and on our website for people who had left reviews with the words Parkinson's, and found all these people saying, oh wow, my Parkinson's symptoms seem to go away or are reduced when I'm wearing a minimalist shoe. And my response is, you don't need a magic vibrator, you just need to use your feet. And when you look at the shoes that the people were wearing in this study, this Vibe Forward study, massively big, thick, stiff, ridiculous shoes that you can't move in. Mm-hmm. Right. And these were shoes that were clearly recommended to these people. It's like, how does this make any sense?
Yeah.
It just mystifies me.
Yeah.
This is what obviously I'm doing. I mean, I wish we had the kind of resources where we could just start sponsoring the research and get the word out there, even though, and I'm going to head into an entertaining direction, even though fundamentally all the work you're doing is for nothing.
Thank you.
I'll tell you why I say that. I'm being facetious, but it's something like when Irene has her Science of Running Medicine events and is presenting to physical therapists her very, very lucid and clearly laid out step-by-step explanation of how modern athletic shoes cause the problems they claim to cure, and how getting out of them into something that actually lets your foot move naturally can actually be a big part of the cure. For some people, the entire thing. Others, some gait retraining is involved as well. I said to her, after you're done talking, people should run out of the room, tackle me, and steal all my shoes. But they don't. What happens is half the room will come out and check out what I'm doing, and a half of them, a quarter of the room total, will get really into what we're doing. But 75% go back to what they were already doing. And the question is why? And my proposal, my supposition, is that the people who are in that room, trained professionals that they are, they think that they made a rational choice for wearing the shoes they're wearing. Even if that rational choice was listening to some 21-year-old kid in a footwear store who just repeated something that he was taught by a shoe salesperson from a company. And the thing that we know about human psychology is that we don't like to change our minds, that presenting new data, contradictory data to something we already believe usually locks in the existing belief instead of changes it in any way. So all the research is at best giving ammunition to the people who are already true believers. And actually that's good. And at best, taking the people who are maybe in the middle who don't know yet and giving them something. But there's a big giant swath that you can tell them, if you wear those shoes, you will get cancer, your kids won't get into college, and you won't be able to use the number 3 anymore. And they'll still go, yeah, but I like them. And this is the thing that I'm really curious about, is how do we take the information that we have and what makes things change? What makes people change? And I don't have the answer. But obviously I want to have these conversations as part of the answer. Hopefully it'll be part of the answer.
Right.
It's a really tricky thing that, I love the work that you guys are doing. I so want to try and figure out how to turn it into something that makes people go, oh, geez, and try something different. And that's the magic question. That's the holy grail.
Yeah.
For sure.
So come on, what do you recommend?
Yeah. Any thoughts?
Just keep doing it, right? Just get it out there and get feet stronger, get people moving and they'll start spreading the word more, but it's going to take a lot of time.
Yeah. And I think, one of the things with academia is, we do a bit preach to the choir, right?
Yeah.
Like we talk to each other at conferences, and so kind of getting out of some of those, like when we have results that really are applicable to a pathology or something, like with the blood flow stuff, like if that's the point where we can really see
super cool
and make it like a no-brainer, like here's the connection, right? Then going to places, conferences that physicians attend, maybe that family physicians attend or something, to be able to try to get it to them, and physical therapists and stuff, and trying to get it to those people who can get it to the general public. Yeah. Or, there's a writer at the New York Times who does a lot of stories on running, like a lot of the opinion pieces and stuff on running. She wrote up the Vibram study, when the first one that we did. Gretchen Reynolds.
Oh, okay.
And, but that gets a lot of attention, right?
Yeah.
What is that going to convince anybody? I don't know, but at least it gets it out, right? Maybe somebody's thinking about it. Talking about it. And I think you're right, like word of mouth again.
Well, the word of mouth is definitely the big thing. When I think about it, I say we're trying to do two things. We're trying to create a grassroots groundswell, because when people have the experience, when people put on a shoe that doesn't squeeze your toes together, that lets you move, that lets you feel, it's an eye-opening experience. The more people have that, at a certain point, there's a critical mass and things shift. And the other thing is doing the top-down version that we talked about earlier. Getting influential people who can tell a convincing and real story. The challenge, of course, with those kind of people frankly, is that many of them are, I think the technical term is nuts. At any
You have
given
to be,
yeah.
good at something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I say that with nothing but respect.
Yeah.
But at any given point, someone who is your best spokesperson could go off the rails and be doing something a little crazy. So there's a bit of a catch-22 with there, or push and pull you, or something. It's tough. Is the bottom line.
Yes.
But yeah, the experience is definitely the thing that makes people get it. And it's funny. Well, I'll have that happen here where people will put on one of our shoes. They'll go walking around. There's like their eyes pop out and they go, "Oh, wait, don't I need arch support?" It's like, I don't know. How'd you feel just now? They go, "Well, fine." I go, "Then you don't." So,
Yeah.
I mean, take your time, let your foot build up some strength. So, so let me kind of jump into the end of this. If people want to find out more about what you've been up to, or just in general, where should they go other than stalking you, which we don't want them to do?
Well, I mean, we don't have we keep trying to get a website up, but we're not very good.
Yeah.
See, this is another issue with academics, right? Like, we are not salespeople. They're
Right.
not marketing of ourselves. Like, we're terrible at that kind of thing. So, yeah, I mean, most of our stuff ends up at conferences and scientific.
Well, the simple thing, if someone goes to PubMed and they search for your names,
Yeah, Google Scholar.
Google Scholar, yeah,
I feel like, and they,
all right.
yeah, anyway.
Because I mean, I do think it's important for people to see this, and I think it's also important, and I wish there was something we could do about this, for people to learn how to read a study, because
so much.
Yeah.
man, some of the stuff that's been quote anti-barefoot could not have been more poorly done, and people don't know it. There's a guy here who's I won't mention him by name, but his initials are Roger Crom. And Roger, I like Roger very much, but I said to him, when you put out a study and it's got 10 people who you say are, we mentioned this earlier, habitual barefoot runners, and I know those people and they are not, that's a challenge. And people don't know, or when you say, that the Nike Vaporfly, everyone who wears it had a 4% improvement in VO2 max, but there's no real correlation between VO2 max and performance, because otherwise, if Kipchoge put on the Vaporfly, he'd run 4% faster, which is way more than 2 minutes over the course of a marathon. So like people don't know how to look at this stuff, and it's hard because it's written not for normal humans,
Right?
Yeah.
academics.
Yeah.
And I wish there was some way of, and maybe that's actually the thing, is someone needs to do academic to English translations.
Yeah,
And-
really.
Yeah. They're definitely, I feel like, there's more open access journals these days and stuff too. And I'm wondering how long it is before something like Plus One says, okay, now give a layperson summary of your article in addition to your scientific article and abstract and all that kind of stuff. Like now, do something that like anybody can read and actually understand what you were doing. But yeah, there is a disconnect.
Yeah.
There's all these things there. I mean, the day that I started Zero Shoes, which was almost 10 years ago, and it was then Invisible Shoes, my first thought after I put up a website was, I've got to find a way to create some sort of umbrella organization to collect all this information, to put it in some usable format, to have some PR people who are talking to the press in a way on a regular basis, so that when some news comes out, there's a voice that's not just shoes are awesome and anything else is going to kill you. And it's not something that I have the ability to do now, but is way high on my fantasy to-do list. And hopefully we'll be able to be part of making that happen at some point in a way that doesn't make it feel like it's just propaganda.
More propaganda from this side now.
Now the joke there is that when people say, well, there's like a debate about natural movement, I say, well, no, there's not. There's people who say we're wrong and they're wrong. there's no debate. People go, no, there's a debate. It's like, no, go take a look if you look at the research, there's really no debate.
Yeah.
And but people don't want to go there.
Yep. It's true. It's challenging.
Well, on that note, that makes us all want to cry.
I know, man.
Well, I first of all, I just want to thank you both for being here. It's been a total treat. I wish there was some way that we could, another thing we could do is have Actually, I thought of this the other day. I wish we had some way of just collecting money from people to support research. Like if we had an app that every minimalist shoe company was able to put on the checkout page of their thing saying, would you like to donate $1 or 10% or whatever it is to support research? Pro and con. I mean, if someone, I don't care. I'm research agnostic. That I think that would be a really cool tool. We have to collect that somewhere and have it accounted for appropriately. So that we get research and Lamborghinis. I mean,
exactly. I mean, we have to drive ourselves to places that we're going to walk
and fast, and you got to get there quickly.
Right, exactly, and in style.
You got stuff to do. You got to collect another 60 people for a study.
Exactly. Yes. Well, thank you so much for having us.
Yeah,
total pleasure. And again, if you can send me so I can put it in the show notes, whatever you can about how people can actually do some foot strengthening. We've talked about it a little bit, but it'd be really fun to post that for people and give them something they can do. And of course, we just want to hear what their experience is. So as my sign off goes, for those of you listening, watching, etc., thank you so much for being here and putting up for my crazy hair day. And Sarah, just that one flyaway that you had.
All good now.
Calm down. Yeah, mine did not. And again, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in all the various places you can. If you have something you want to email us, drop an email to move@jointhemovementmovement.com. And again, if you want to be part of the tribe, please subscribe and like and share and review and do all those things that you know how to do. But most importantly, enjoy, have fun, and live life feet first.